Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Just Another Kill Team podcast, connecting kill team communities across the globe. If you're passionate about the tactical skirmish game that brings together strategy, lore, and creativity, you are in the right place. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and stay updated with our latest episodes. If you want to support the show, check out our Patreon. Your support means a lot to us. Follow us by using the social media links in the podcast description for all the latest news, and be sure to leave a review to let us know what you think. Thanks for tuning in. Here's today's episode.
Alrighty. Well, I've got, we can talk with, why don't we do some little topical kill team amuse-bouche, just because today, the day of the recording, is the day of the second Spanish leak of kill team rules. Or not, they didn't release rules, but it was the second kill team spoiling, which maybe it's fake, but now we definitely know it's not because they showed the Catan on Warcom.
That's right.
Yeah.
So PO you're talking about the what is it, the Nightbringer?
Yeah, it got previewed as the new Nightbringer model, which to be on the record, looks dope as hell, because the normal Nightbringer was cool. This one looks way cooler. He's got scarabs everywhere. He's got the big scythe. His necrodermis is looking crazy cool. Very, very techy. And yeah, overall, just a sick model. And now we know that one of the teams coming down the line is going to be more Night Lords, because if anyone can get Nemesis Claw, which I have not seen on shelves for sale online at all in a while, we're going to get Jump Pack Nemesis Claw, and then we're getting more sisters with shields and armor.
Sick.
It was almost like a slippage, wasn't it? Like somebody slipped, scanned the White Dwarf and sent it out.
Yeah, I cannot imagine that GW is happy with this sort of informational leak. Maybe it's all conspiracy, and they were hoping for this leak. But this pair of teams wasn't even on the docket yet. Like this is like probably at Nova. Maybe this was going to be their reveal, or at LVO or something. This was going to be their kill team reveal, and now it's been spoiled. Probably like 4 or 6 months early. It's kind of crazy.
Our strategic marketing strategy, maybe.
Still super hype.
Still super duper hype. And the models look cool. The Sisters of Battle, they've got a whole shrine on someone's back with the power sword. And we've got Marines with jump packs. How are they supposed to balance?
Sounds super, super
How
fun.
are they going to balance these jerks? Anyways, what's the buzz been like in Australia with these people? Because this happened for Australia while everyone was asleep, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. We woke up to some really crazy, exciting news. A couple of people on the server were posting it up. Thanks, guys. Keeping everybody informed. But we just woke up to go, wow. And it looks like, I don't know, from the looks of the magazine today, it looks like there's going to be a Chaos Lord coming packed in that box too, which is just insane.
That's going to be some crazy value there.
I literally bought one of those a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, damn it, why did I?
Well, you'll have it painted up in no time, compared to who knows when that's going to come out.
Yeah, no, so true.
It really is a huge crapshoot on when that's going to come. I'm curious if they're going to release a Catan as a Kill Team box set. Like, is this going to be in the Kill Team box? It's got to be, right? Because they previewed the NPO rule. I didn't run it through an AI translator because it'll come out when it comes out. I don't really care that much, but the NPO rules basically got leaked, and is it going to be in the box? That would be kind of crazy, because that means that the 40k players are going to delete this box from existence if the Night Lords weren't bad enough.
Yeah, literally, that's what I was saying today. Like, it's just going to get sucked up by 40k, insanely. And I mean, when you think of that Catan as a final boss, it just looks absolutely amazing.
And it wouldn't really make sense for a Catan to like fight against the kill team. That the kill team like shows up at the Catan boss raid and they just get deleted, right? In like the actual lore. There's no way.
Literally.
And for anyone who doesn't know who Bands is, Bands is a big part of the Australian TOing scene. You run pretty much some of the largest tournaments, I think, in Australia at the moment, from what I remember.
Yeah. So fortunately, everybody appreciates the events. They turn up to them from all states. Massive shout out to everybody interstate who comes to the GTR tournaments. They grow bigger and better thanks to everybody who comes. But yeah, we had We had the Purge at the start of the year, which was 75 registered, 64 attending. So it was an absolute cracker. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think since the last time you've been on, you've started playing a little bit more. In the pre-show, we were talking about how you were playing Vespid because, maybe you were going to go to the World Team Championship, but ended up kind of falling through because of some life stuff. So maybe we'll chat a little bit about how Vespid have been doing, in your friendly local games or maybe some more competitive games, right?
Yeah, for sure, definitely. Yeah, they're a fun team. I think they've got a lot of play, and if people don't know what they're up against, yeah, it can certainly catch them unawares.
Yeah, because even Jason has been noodling around with them, I think, in the Side for Fun game, right?
The more I play them, the more I like them, and I'm kind of tiptoeing into this territory. I'm like, am I going to play these at New York Open? Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah, meanwhile, I've been playing, some Tau-adjacent models, but as Raveners. So I've got my Crisis Suit team, which if anyone's on the Just Another Kill Team Discord, I've got pictures of them up. Maybe I'll post them over at Good Time Rolled hobby channel just for funsies. But I built my Crisis Suit Raveners because they fall out of the sky instead of coming out of the ground.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
Did you
they
end
just
up
took
doing
their
a huge
inaugural game
for the distended sack guy?
I have not done extra missiles that I can attach to him, but he does have 1 million missiles. So I've got 5 different dudes. I've got a Rampager as the Wrecker, just because I think that's like a fun little thing. And then I may have reposed a Farsight model, which is absolutely far too large for Kill Team.
Apparently not, because we have a Shard of Catan coming in.
That's true. That's true. But I'm pretty sure the Shard of the Catan is not on a 40 millimeter base.
Should be. That's a lie. That's a lie. Yeah. But you were just saying that you had your first game with the proxies.
Yeah, I just took them out for their first game against one of my locals playing Hardtech Circle. We just had like a fun run at each other sort of game, and turns out if you just run away from the Necrons and hide in the tunnel and then just show up when you need to score points, pretty good. Who'd have thought?
Pretty good. It's kind of tough though, because if everyone out activates you, you can't just like wait people out necessarily. Did you feel that at all, or like? I mean, first of all, did you win?
I did win. It was a pretty narrow win. I think I gave up a couple points here and there. At the end of the day, 20 wounds is a lot, and basically no single offensive action will kill a Ravener. So being able to keep your operatives alive for much longer than it feels like they should kind of makes them feel like Necrons in a sense, where like they slowly heal up over time. And then the not being able to like attack people all that much while getting out activated is not really a big issue, because you can just have the tunnel be your movement and you can just disappear and then burrow on counteract and hit people, which is pretty rough.
That is true.
But I don't want to take up the entire conversation on my experiences with the Raveners. I wanted to have Bands on here because Bands is one of the other TOs, us, Dakota, some of the command point guys that have been doing this for a long time. And Bands has a little bit more input on, what sort of things have been working for his local scene, because he's been one of the big people in Australia for a long time. So I was just kind of curious, like, where is the Australian scene now? Basically 6 or almost a year from the last box release. We had a lot of the energy, 10 months ago when the new box came out. How has the player base been for you? Because when me and Jason are looking at kind of the week-to-week stats on our Patreon show, it's looked like Kill Team is kind of stabilized as like not substantially bigger than it was before, but definitely bigger than, before the last edition. What sort of players are sticking around? What sort of players are making it to tournaments? Are your casual events much bigger than your tournament events in Australia? Talk to us a little bit about how the Australian scene has grown and changed over time.
Yeah, no, for sure. So look, from a GTR perspective, I mean, the reason why I built GTR was to provide support to communities looking to boot up little pockets of engagement and activity in their local scenes. And New South Wales is obviously currently booming. Previously, when we first started off in the scene, myself and a couple of others, massive shout out to Screech and Samwise the Brave, who is going to WTC, and a couple of others in the community, we'd go around and help local scenes attached to stores in places we call RSLs, which are ex-service people, clubs and pubs, set up their own scenes. And it's grown from strength to strength, in all honesty. I mean, that my current team, which is the Area 51, massive shout out to everybody in my team, is currently at 48 players. So, and that's regular players as well. So if we wanted to, we could just host our own GT. I mentioned to you that, in some instances, there's been a lot of attrition with some players, moving on to other things, going back to D&D and so forth. But, even further down south, Parramatta, massive shout out to Greasy Pete. They're getting regular players on a weeknight, and you can pretty much get a game of Kill Team anywhere in Greater Sydney, which is within 30 kilometres of the centre of the city. Every night of the week, if people aren't playing at locals that have a scene, they're playing at home. And I know Sam hosts at his place sometimes, so it's growing really strong. And it's all about making it inclusivity. Like, it's all about making it inclusive, where to the point where new players are coming in, they're getting intros into the game, like a 3-step process: basic movement, next step from there, equipment, and potentially tac ops. And then from there, strategic and firefight ploys, just to get them used to it. So by their 4th game, they're flying solo. So the community's been doing a great deal of work in that space, helping people on board. And I think that's the biggest focus that anybody who's looking to create a community should focus on, a structured approach. And I've been, I've been called out as being a little bit too structured, but the results speak for themselves.
Yeah, getting a gentle onboarding process, I think, is super important. I think for just these complicated games where showing up to a strange place with people you don't know is a little spooky sometimes emotionally,
100%. And I mean, if you look at it, right, this is a passion for all of us, and a lot of us are not really social. We're super conservative, we're introverts, so it's a big step coming out to a scene or to a shop or to a place to play a game and get and have an intro. So if that experience is anything less than warm and friendly, and there's been a couple of those, honestly, where people have been sent to places to get an intro and they've just been absolutely stomped, and the feedback's been they're never going to play the game again. So again, anybody who's looking to grow their scene, make sure it's super warm and friendly, because if we're not introverts, we're kind of on the spectrum. So making sure that experience is front and center is paramount. And I kick off every tournament that we run, local, major, grand major, with the comment that don't let your enjoyment be at the cost of someone else's experience. So it just sets the scene.
Yeah, actually, that's a good little speech. It kind of takes the edge off. There's GW kind of does something similar. It's not quite, that nice. It's a little bit about look around. A lot of you guys are going to be losers, because it is, at the end of the day, tournaments are about winning, unfortunately. But they could be about other things. But like, if your goal is to be the winner, only one person can win. Doesn't matter how many people are going to show up there, right? So making sure that you have a good experience where both players at least got something out of the experience is a really good level set, I think.
Yeah, no, very true. Even getting, like, because at the Purge, we had honestly about 7 people who had never played a game before, right? They turned up, I made them raise their hands, everybody looked around, so they were aware that these people have never played a game, and their opponents would maximize on their points, but at the same time kind of run a learning or intro game. And this is the only way the community grows.
Yeah, I mean, we're still doing that sort of stuff, I think, at my local shop. Every Thursday we've got our pickup day. We, just even today on this Thursday, we had 2 new people show up. Luckily, I've got a very flexible community, and, shout outs to Memphis and shout out to Michael, who showed up and were willing to take an intro game against a new player. I doubt that new player will win, but at least they'll have a good time, because I know those guys are nice dudes.
Yeah, super important. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's like that culture. You have to be able to set the culture, and it kind of starts, if you're interested in setting up your own tournament scene, the culture's got to start from the person who's running it, right? You're sitting there hanging out. Don't be grumpy. I've been that grumpy person one time, and I definitely turned a person off of playing Kill Team, and I was like, oh, can't do that ever again.
Yeah. No, it's really important to make sure that experience from their perspective is one that has them coming back again.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
What other, for the people that you've seen who do a good job, what do you think are some things that they've done that you feel like, from watching people interact with them, are good hallmarks of a good intro experience? For me, an example would be when I ran demos at Gen Con. don't put a lot of distance between you and rolling dice. You know, the game is very good at showing you like, hey, when you fire a gun, you shoot 4 times, roll those dice, and don't put a lot of distance between them and the decision making of rolling dice, because rolling that die gives you that emotive feeling of your guy shot your opponent, and then your opponent rolls some defense dice. It kind of gives you that feeling of like, oh, he's trying to dodge getting shot at, putting cover in between so that you know that the terrain matters. All of that stuff, you can make that a very smooth intro experience. I think that's generally pretty good when you're trying to teach people how to play Kill Team, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. And look, anybody who's turning up is invested. They've maybe skimmed through the rules. It hasn't made sense to them, but they're turning up and they want to play a game. And regardless of how much you tell them, don't stress, this is just an intro game. There's no winners or losers. They're super invested. And sometimes you see them getting caught up into analysis paralysis, but you've just got to remind them that, this is an intro game. No bad decisions here. We're just learning the basics. So don't stress. Just have fun and roll some dice. And that really, again, takes the edge off things, because I've seen people turn up to their first intro game and like hand on chin, and they're looking at their models and they're laser focused and they're wondering why things are happening. And you've just got to kind of, flip the script on them a bit. This is not a proper game. Your proper game will be game 4 when you fly solo. And even then we're going to ease you into it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And like teach a new player, I usually start by bringing NPOs. So like, I'm like, if you have a team, let me know what team you're going to bring, and then I'll kind of like freshen up on the rules. And then if I'm playing NPOs, I just have to worry about their rules and pointing out when they're relevant, when it's a good idea. And then I kind of have like a checklist of things I run through. So, I kind of dive in with all the equipment and all the plays and everything, but I spoon feed them one thing at a time as it's relevant. So I'll be like, oh, this would be a great time for your transhuman physiology ploy. All of a sudden you'll take 4 less damage or whatever. And just things like that. And then I have a checklist of things. So I'll purposely have one of my NPOs run out somewhere without cover, and they have a conceal order, and I'll be like, this is a legal shooting target because, and then highlight it, and then like run out somewhere with an engage order, but they're obscured, and be like, you can take this shot. Or like, if possible, I try to take obscured shots against them. And then once I've hit the checklist of all the different things for like obscured, engage and conceal orders, then I probably lost a couple of my NPOs, and then I'll start to fight fair and square and see how it goes from every time I lose, especially because also I'm only playing for kill up and crit up, and I don't take attack up. And then people are pretty jazzed about it.
Yeah. And look, even showing them things like defining light and heavy terrain advantage and things like saturate. Like there's been a couple of instances where I've warned people, I go, look, I'm just going to show you something. But again, don't stress. I'm just showing you why you need to keep some of your metals further than 2 inches away from each other. Because if my Balefire Acolyte gets up here and fires across from here, both of these are now targets. And even though it was their first game, some of them come back to me and go, I'll never forget that time you hammered me. And I'm just like, no, it wasn't a hammering. It was our first game. And I'm just showing you why positioning was important, because you have models that can do splash and 2-inch blast. Like you've just got to be careful about that kind of thing. But it's the best way to learn, by seeing it actually happen, because then it's forever burnt into their brain. And positioning their models, especially in deployment with risks of alpha strikes, like they'll get it down pat from the get-go, which is good.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because alpha strikes were a thing that kind of everyone had kind of forgotten about, but I feel like there's a lot of small discourse at the edges now, and like, what's the best way that I can strip some safety from my opponent on turn 1? And I think when Alexa was on here at the beginning of the year, he was talking about Brood Brothers being able to do it, and there was a lot of conversation about Higher Tech Circle for a little bit about being able to do it. So having those moments when you're playing with a new player and showing them like, oh, we don't have to shoot each other on turn 1, but if you let me, I'll blow you up, just so they kind of get a sense for like, you can do the violence, but you don't always have to do the violence.
Yeah,
and I like the idea of using the NPOs to have all those teaching moments. It's just not a thing that I generally think about, because I'm always there just either playing or like walking people through rules personally.
Yeah,
no, definitely.
So Bands, for you, because you work in a lot of different regions, you got a lot of friends who are doing stuff. What's the kind of the sell for people who want to like embed themselves with the store to kind of like talk about kill teams, spread it around, or do you mostly find that people are coming to these stores looking for kill teams, so it's kind of just an easy synthesis?
No, it's a bit of both, to be honest. And look, I've done a lot of marketing and promoting of the GTR community. And look, in the Discord now, we've got over 2,000 people, but across all of the Facebook groups and other routes to market, we've got about 13,000 players, which is great. And that's not just exclusively Kill Team players. That's 40K players. That's Necromunda players. That's you name it players, right? Anything Warhammer. So where I focus the community's goals on it, Warhammer gaming systems, right? And when we push out messaging through these that there's a community day or there's a an opportunity to come play an intro game via those various channels, they ask where, and we partner with stores. So one really good store we partner with at the moment is over in Beverly Hills, and a massive shout out to HR Games and the guys there. They provide space for us on Thursday nights, and we've been having regular sessions where people come and get intro games, people come have casual games. But when you're connecting with a store, in a lot of instances, unless it's a store like the Combat Company over in Mortdale, massive shout out to those guys who run regular events at their spots, they're more focused around the store element, and they're probably 90% of the time lacking on the community element. So connecting with a store, coming in, speaking with them, letting them know you're here to run intro games just for the betterment and the growth of the community works out really well. And what we've seen, and again with all the stores in our area, is that they'll turn around and invest by providing space, also helping run smaller tournaments, providing prize support, and they really appreciate, somebody putting their hand up and taking the mantle of just, helping organize games and be like a community lead within their stores. A big focus, though, for GTR is to kind of like not have silos across stores, because more often than not, it can get a bit cliquey around locations and stores. So bringing a community together and really showcasing a particular event that's happening at one store to the broader community across Sydney and even, across the states. We've got people like Dan in Queensland who will fly down for an event at a store. He's an absolute legend. Massive shout out, Dan. But letting them know something's happening, people will come. And Sydney in itself, Greater Sydney, is like at least 30 minutes between some suburbs, sometimes an hour and 10 minutes. And people will make the trip if they know something's happening, which is really cool.
Yeah, because, for anyone who has never been to Australia is a pretty big spot. So having people fly from effectively state to state is a pretty big deal. In America right now, I feel like some of the traveling is a little lower right now because a lot of players are kind of figuring out if they want to go to these bigger tournaments. We got Nova coming up. We have the New York Open. We've got the Renegade. And then we also have the bigger tentpoles, LVO and all this other stuff. Not everyone is traveling yet. So hearing that people in Australia are flying, across state lines, Australia's pretty big. Not a quick flight.
Not a quick flight at all. And not as regular and as easy as what happens in the States as well. It's just a hop, skip, and a jump. For us, it's a little bit more grueling.
Yeah, and driving is also kind of a pain too, because Australia's speed limit, for anyone who doesn't know, is I think it's 50 some odd miles an hour for the Americans. And it's a country almost as big as the continental United States, I think.
Yeah, correct. East Coast to West Coast for us, I think, is the same as East to West for you guys. We've just got nothing in between, right?
Yeah, I just remember when I visited Australia, driving was agony for me. Being used to 70 miles an hour, being trapped at 50, I was like, this is pain and suffering. So for any of the Australians who are driving from across state lines, good on you.
Yeah, no, it is. It's hilarious. But yeah, just again, stores are an amazing place to boot up a community, and store managers, store owners really appreciate it because, like I said, they probably aren't too au fait. A really good example is a friend in GTR and a community lead, Keely DK, over in Western Australia. He's he's working with a store who has a massive 40K scene and a regular scene happening there for 40K and other gaming systems. But he's booted up Kill Team inside that store beyond Odyssey. Massive shout out, guys. He's actually running that community from that store, and they're having fortnightly meets, leagues, etc., that are running really well. So he's done a superb job at that. And again, putting his hand up, running the leagues, bringing people in, getting the messaging across the Kill Team Western Australia Facebook group, and letting people know it's on. Getting the message out is probably the most important thing, but he's executing really well by welcoming new players in, getting them comfortable, with coming out on a regular basis and rolling some dice, and that's huge.
Yeah, leagues definitely a big thing. I think locally in the New York scene, I'm very happy that another group picked up running a league, just because there's a lot of moving pieces in New York. So having another group run a local league was really nice, because it means that you can have a third space, kind of, because shops, like I think you said, can get a little clicky sometimes. So maybe some people don't like traveling. So having a league that sits on top of the stores in New York City, it's actually a pretty nice change of pace for me. And definitely a thing that I think even Jason, you've been having a little bit of success with, right?
Yeah. Shout out to Jamie, who's been running the leagues in Minnesota for the last couple seasons. Doing an amazing job with that, keeping up with all the scores and all that. The way we have is we just have 10 weeks to complete 4 games, and you get the list of all the games that you need to do, and then you have 10 weeks to just figure it out. It's pretty fun. It's not like every round gets increasingly, it's not like you're getting paired up based on wins and losses. It is kind of more just together and get all the different like little clicky scenes all into one place, so you can meet new people and play more games. Do you guys do anything like that, or more of the like you get a game, play it, see how it goes, and that determines your next pairing, or how do you do your leagues?
Yeah, no. So look, I've run probably about 10 Sydney-wide Killzone Sydney leagues, which have been all across Greater Sydney, and that was going really strong for a while. But what we've focused on now is more leagues in our own areas. So the league previous to this one was 26 people across 4 locations in the southwest of Sydney, and to your point, it was one game every 2 weeks, and that really helps out with, I guess, play-life balance, right? And gives you regular games once per fortnight, where every other week you can just pick up a casual game or score brownie points with your partner, so you can go out the next week and have a game. But it works really well, and I mean, we're 2 rounds into our current league right now, and there's 20 of us, so 6 down from last league. But it's just such a great way to see the community come together and to keep it kind of legitimate, only because there's been some question marks around leagues and issuing of points and stuff. I make the guys take photos, much to the pain of everybody who plays in the league, but they take 6 photos, right? One's a selfie to confirm you were both there, and then one's at the start of turning point 1, start of turning point 2, start of turning point 3, start of turning point 4, and then the last one's at the end of turning point 4, just so you make sure it's, legitimate, because I know not in Australia or in the US, but globally there were some interesting things happening with leagues. So just in case we ever get pulled up on them, it's we're compliant. But what the photo does as well is let everybody know that stuff is happening, and there's a lot of courteous smack talk going on in the GTR server on the league channel. So it's a really good thing. Leagues, they break down click boundaries, they bring a broader community together, and they're a whole ton of fun. And a massive shout out to our cousins, Nurglings with Attitude and WA, who play with us in the Southwest League. Those guys are amazing.
That's actually really funny. I never really thought about having like a social media feed of like all the league games, but it's kind of cute if you guys take a picture at least at the beginning or end. Maybe 6 pictures is too many for my taste, but 1 at the beginning or 1 at the end could be kind of nice way to like show people having fun together, because then it kind of zooms it out of just being your own interpersonal experience and like, oh yeah, everyone else that's in the league is playing and you can all see each other, which could be kind of neat too, because it's a nice way to have that be tournaments are not the only time you see other people in the community, right?
Yeah, true story. And like I said, it's regular. It's like Wednesday night for us at Panania Diggers, which is one of those pubs, RSLs, is literally the point in midweek that just breaks the week up for us and is magic. Like the other night, so Wednesday night that just passed, we had 8 tables, so 16 people playing, and it was 14 games that were played that night. Actually, I lie. I think it was about 16 games. So the league brought a bunch of those, and then people were catching up for a second game. Or I did an intro game for a couple of the new guys who have started joining us, and the photos are just absolutely magic because everybody's having a good time. I take a group photo with everyone at the end, and the two new attendees who turned up are like, the only reason we're here is because we see all the photos and what's happening. So again, a little bit of a marketing angle to help grow your community as well. Take photos and share them, guys.
Yeah, that's great.
Famously,
Definitely gotta
not
take
the
more
easiest thing
pictures.
for Warhammer nerds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even me, I don't even like taking that many pictures when I play because I'm just like, I'm in it to play the game. So it's not even something that I really think about all the time. So hearing that and thinking about like the downstream impacts of like, oh, that could be a nice way to like authenticate a game too. Although maybe it matters a little bit more in Sydney where people like are traveling a little bit further away in the greater exurb area. And in New York City, there's like 3 stores. So everyone goes to those 3 places basically, and everyone kind of knows each other. Maybe it doesn't matter there as much, but it is kind of a cute way to try to sync up a scene across a couple different places. Maybe like in the New England area, having that in their New England Kill Team Discord. Maybe that's maybe a fun way to join those different cities.
Yeah, and let me tell you one thing, going back to the initial hesitation or concerns or anxiety around coming out and stepping into a scene, if all you're seeing is models being painted and set up on a board and you don't know who's standing there or what kind of faces they're pulling, seeing a friendly smile will make people come out and connect with you more than, just photos of models will, because they can do that at home.
Or with their one other friend, right?
Yeah, true.
Because it's pretty easy to have like maybe one other person in your local area that might be dragged down with you. I mean, most people I think have like the one other friend that's down to do whatever they're going to do. But having more than that, I think that's the magic of going into the public spot and putting yourself out there, right? For anyone who listens to these sorts of podcasts and hasn't been to their local store, that's part of the reason why going outside and playing in tournaments or going to your local store is nice. You just meet other nerds that are kind of like you, or going to the big cons, Gen Con, Adepticon, or all these other big spots, seeing a whole field of people that ostensibly are way more like you than maybe you felt like in other spaces is really nice.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I know when I first rocked up to my first game of Kill Team, coming back into the scene after not being in it for so long, and previously a 40K player, it was nerve-wracking for me to walk up to a store and go, hey, can somebody please teach me? I remember it. Martin Goda ran me through my first game after I collected my first couple of boxes. And it was nerve-wracking, but it was just such a good time. It was such a fun time, warmest intro into the game. And been playing ever since.
Hey everybody, here doing our own little personal ad read for our respective tournaments. The New York Open, October 18-19, one of the last golden tickets before the actual World Championships of Warhammer. And Jason's got the Renegade Open.
Renegade Open hopping in right after that, which is going to be maybe the first golden ticket event for the 2026 season in just outside of Minneapolis, pretty close to the airport, November 22 and 23 with a golden ticket.
Yeah, tickets are up on sale now at ny-open.com.
And Renegade Open tickets are linked in the show notes as well. Hope to see you there.
More than playing, really.
Yeah, true. More than playing, yeah. And look, it's honestly like putting your hand up and running tournaments, running events, creating spaces for people. It's really rewarding. I remember you and Cyrac on your last podcast, saying how challenging it was for people to actually do that. It's not easy. There's a lot of smack talk that comes with the territory as well from others. But when you go to an event and you're setting it up, you're cursing yourself, but then when you see everybody playing, rolling dice and having fun, you realize why you do it. It's because you have a small part to play in delivering enjoyment for people, and that's legitimately why I do it. When I see everybody having fun, it makes it all worthwhile for me.
Yeah, it's a passion project, and then you get rewarded by seeing all the other people who are passionate about this thing, right? There's plenty of other hobbies where people just sit down, play a competitive game, and then they pack up and that's it, right? Playing a card game or doing any sort of game where the company builds the whole thing for you. There's only so much of yourself that you're putting in there, but with Kill Team and Warhammer 40K, especially for Warhammer 40K, because Lord knows that those people have put enough of their soul into their army by the time they get to 2,000 points and go to a tournament. Because I've seen plenty of unoptimized armies when I go to these big tournaments and see, the guy with all Grey Knights on foot with rhinos rolling up in the hotel rooms. Like, he put his heart and soul into that. He's not going to win a single game, but he's probably going to have a great time. Kill Team, it doesn't quite have that as much because you can't list build nearly as much. But then compared to like card games, you show up, you play, you leave, because there's only so much of yourself that you're putting out there. So being able to be a part of that as a background character or even as a primary character, depending on how much people need to complain about their local tournament organizer, is, I think, very fun and very rewarding. Fully in agreement there, Bands.
Yeah, and I think a thing that Kill Team has going for it as well, separate to 40K, is that investment you just spoke about is almost like borderline. This is my army. This is what I do. This is what must be. Whereas in Kill Team, it's like, casual. I can pick up a box, paint it. If it's not really my jam, I can pick up another box or pivot from this one. But I think that Kill Team actually brings a lot more social and community element that isn't so laser focused on the game that has to be, that it's got that capability to be many things to many people. And that's why you've got people who come to the tournaments who have never played a game, or you have people coming that just want 7 games casually. They don't care if they win or lose. They want to have a good conversation with their opponent. And I see that happening at GTR tournaments all the time. And it's genuinely heartwarming because people connect, they make friends, where in a lot of instances, and I'm not saying every, but in a lot of instances that it's a 40K at 40K tourneys, it's you must die or this is my army, So yeah, I think Kill Team has a lot going for it.
Yeah, it definitely has a lot more room for that kind of back and forth interaction. Whereas like in Warhammer 40K, as much as, I respect Warhammer 40K for what it is, watching your opponent play for 30 minutes at a time and rolling defensive saves can certainly be some version of emotional damage.
Yeah, and look, we've got 2 guys in the community. We've got Jimmy C, and we've got Reese from Three's the Wound, who come to the tournaments or come to events. And it's, I swear, if you ever play these 2 people, with Jimmy, it's like, how do you want me to play? Are you a competitive player? Do you want me to go hard? Do you want to go take it easy? Like, he'll actually prompt his opponent with how they want to play. And then Reese plays and talks almost like he's on his casual podcast, and it's the most amazing thing. It's almost like it's not scripted, but it flows in a way where it's almost a social catch-up rather than a game of Kill Team, and it's just absolutely phenomenal when you see that kind of thing happening.
Yeah, Riffs is definitely a character. For anyone who doesn't know who that is part of Kill Team Casuals. He's the I think the shorts media arm of the Empire at this point, because he's done a lot of Warhammer 40K shorts out on YouTube. Not that I've seen all of them, but I've definitely seen some of them.
True story. He's producing those it's going out of fashion for sure.
Yeah, and you're saying that he's also playing Kill Team at the small events. I guess he's part of Kill Team Casuals. He's got to keep one foot in the meta, right?
Yeah, he always comes to GTR events. So every major I throw, he comes. 99% of the time he wins the best sport award, and it's just absolutely amazing because, again, it's just an absolute good time when you roll dice against Reese.
And that's got to be very encouraging for the people who go to these tournaments and meet the social media people and hearing, one of the things that I like about Kill Team Casuals is they very much seem in person very much the same people as they were online, and I keep that energy for myself as well as much as I can. Although maybe sometimes in tournament play I can be a little competitive, so I don't know if that's the way I come off, but maybe it happens from time to time.
You wouldn't be blamed if it did, mate, for sure.
Yeah. So you've been playing Vespid. As far as your local scene is concerned, were you going to play them at the World Team Championship if you had gone to play?
That was one of the teams I would have taken for sure. That would have been one of the considerations. The other one would have been Salvages, but I don't really. Don't get me wrong, I love the models, and I think Stunty Love is definitely something that has to be focused more on the Salvages. But Vespid, being Tau, and me being a 40k Tau player, is where my heart is at the moment, I must say. And I've been playing them in the current league 2 rounds in, and it's just been absolutely phenomenal. I think the boost they got with the extra operative helped out a great deal, and the fact that it doesn't cost a communion point to open up doors in Gallowdark anymore. I think that's made it really exciting. But I just had my second game against Shrub and his Battleclade round 2 of the Southwest League, and it was an amazing match on Gallowdark.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, Vespid are definitely a part of the meta now. I think after the buff that they got, me and Jason have seen them in week-to-week stats pretty much almost flat at least 50%, if not a little bit higher from week to week, which definitely speaks to them being much better now because, Tempestus Aquilons were definitely the ones that were sporting the big win for a while.
Yeah, definitely. They're a very fun team to play. You've got to be super, on Volcus, they have the capability to dominate. On Gallowdark, you probably have to play a little bit more conservatively, but they've certainly got a lot of play depending on who you're versing and the action economy with regards to movement and shooting for sure.
Yeah, and I think it might be kind of fun to zoom in on Gallowdark specifically because we had Orion on here a couple of weeks ago talking about how he's been playing Vespid, or before the Learn to Master series started. And if you guys have been liking that, shout out to us on our Discord. But Vespid on Gallowdark, I think, kind of under talked about. So maybe if the two of you had some quick pointers you wanted to give for anyone who's playing Vespid on In the Dark, now would be a good time to kind of talk it out, because I'm not playing Vespid at all, so I don't have a strong input here at all.
Yeah, no, definitely. So look, on Gallowdark, you've really got to play super, super conservatively and honestly wait for your opponent to make a mistake or provide you with an open, because it's very much unforgiving if you have too many models within close proximity of each other, regardless of how many light or heavy barricades you put up. If you provide an opportunity to get shot and your opponent's got blast, you're pretty much done for if you're not playing a little bit more conservatively. I go through the thought process of feeding my opponent probably at least one model from turning point 2 onwards, and that's preferably at the end of turning point 2 if I can, to provide me with an opening. But you've got some great firefight ploys with Vespids, and you've got some great faction equipment that even in melee lets you roll dice with some of the big boys. And I'll just going back to a game I was playing against Alan and his Night Lord's Nemesis Claw on Gallowdark. It was only a point difference and I forgot a few things, but he won majestically, but literally only a couple of points difference. And it was something that I was like, after that match, I'm like, nah, these guys definitely have some play. So having that extra model certainly helped, because again, free feed to your opponent. But things like Ocelli, which is a firefight ploy that essentially allows you to use this, and during an activation in which it's used fly. So if you think about a door being open and your drone being within 6 inches, flying to that door and then being at a vantage and having saturate on something like a Skyblast or a long ping certainly does a truckload of damage.
Yeah, and the fact that you can act like you're shooting from vantage even though there is no vantage on the Gallowdark is pretty huge. I mean, it pretty much kind of does just act like Seek Light, but that is just like one of the most powerful tools to have on the Gallowdark. So
it is.
Yeah, using Ocelli to people up that are in light barricades. Like the whole team is a little bit better at melee than pretty much anyone that hasn't looked that close would expect, which is also pretty huge.
Yeah, no, it is. It's super strong. And to your point, yeah, it's like Seek Light. So if you want to be dodgy and people ask if you've got Seek Light, you're like, no, I don't. But you should be courteously competitive and tell them I haven't got Seek Light, but I've got Ocelli, which is kind of like the same thing. And in my last game against Battleclade, he did have one of his lower servitors up against the light barricade um, on the central point with the objective marker there, but he had a heavy servitor and another one next to him right up where he had gone on guard for turning point one, just to provide a bit of aggression. And I won the roll turning point two, so I didn't need to use a Celly, and I'd rather shoot him with the Sky Blast and get as much area as possible with my token.
Yeah, because sky blasting people is also real crazy.
It is. The neutron marker you drop just provides a radius of, just walk into this, please, right, and take D3.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the Sky Blast is obviously generically just really powerful. 4-on-4s, 3/5 blast with saturate, and then the ability to drop the damage token. And on Volcus, it's quite good still. But on In the Dark, because there's nowhere to stand. If you ever get it off, your opponent's just like guaranteed to take damage when they're going anywhere in the rooms, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. So yeah, Blast 2, Devastating 2, and Neutron Bombardment. So if you're rolling 5s and 6s, hello.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those weapons that has like a new lease on life on Gala Dark specifically, right? Where on Volcus it's always good because of the flat lethal 5 on the Flamer and the Blast. Those weapons have a little bit more room to shine than they would on Volcus, right?
Yeah, no, true. Especially if you're firing into a stronghold, for sure. And your Vespid Sky Blast is probably the model you want to keep as long as possible until the end, because just the threat range on that guy and the capability he's got is super solid.
Yeah, because if you're in your dream scenario, you're dropping 3 neutron bombardment tokens across the map, and your opponent's just wading through a toxic field of smoke and miasma the entire game, right?
Yeah, true. And look, in Gallowdark, one thing you can do is with all your activations and all your operatives, you can just open up doors to the left and right, especially if you've got your Sky Blast running down the center lane, just so if there's an opportunity to move up and shoot through a door elsewhere with a valid target, you've got that capability to do so. It's huge threat range even on Gallowdark as well.
Yeah, it's pretty huge. I've found, like, with the doors that the enemies can threaten right away, you don't really want to crowd up on those, obviously, especially against elites, because they can, like, move up, open the door, and hit you with like a blast or a torrent or something. You got to be careful with that. But like for all of the back lane doors that your opponent can't get to, those up right away so that you can threaten the room. And like you kind of mentioned, you feed. At this point, you can afford to feed the opponent one bug just to get the game rolling. And once the shootout starts, you can really just like slam people. So whenever I feed the opponent a bug, I like to do that thing of the turn. So it's like as soon as possible, or like if I can even start this in turning point 1, just like start the shootout that favors you. Because there's not a lot of other teams, like plenty of other teams that are like mixed shooting, mixed melee, don't get as many shooting attacks per turn as you do.
Yeah.
Turn it into a shootout, you're gonna mulch people.
Yeah, no, definitely. And positioning is really important, right? Depending on where your opponent's positioned at the end of turning point 1 and where you're putting kind of like your goon bugs just to open doors and provide an opportunity to either, charge and pass potentially, depending on where they've ended up. But making sure, strategic models like your Sky Blast, like your Long Sting, like your the Ghost Kill guy called again. I forget his name. Shade Strain.
The Shade Strain.
He's so good. He's such a good tanky model. I swear. He's so good.
3-up save, ignores piercing, always in cover, crit retains. What can he not do except for kill someone at more than 8 inches away?
Oh, he's got some play too. In all honesty, he's got some play on that 8 inches away piece. Taking a melter against that guy, especially hitting on 4s and then removing removing piercing, certainly definitely a dirty play, but he's definitely got some good moves. And look, this team is definitely a team that has a ton of play, but you need to buff it properly, right? Equipment wise, like I would definitely recommend anybody taking to again take as much of the faction equipment as possible. The only one I would recommend you don't take is probably Accelerant Stimulant on Gallowdark, because you probably don't need it, depending on whether you're playing a long or short edge board. But Neurostimulant, Convergent Stimulant, Aggression Stimulant is definitely something you want. Aggression Stimulant, definitely, because by turning point, at the end of turning point 2, or maybe start of turning point 3 and turning point 4, depending on how many you've deleted off the board, you really want to take this and get pretty aggressive, because in hand to hand they get pretty strong. Being able to have Ceaseless, Lethal 5, and Brutal, and then taking things like Hardened Exoskeleton really helps. And then having the thing like Vicious Venom at the end, depending on who you're going up against, elites and so forth, can be really compelling as a firefight ploy off the end of it.
Yeah, and for anyone who is new to Vespid and hasn't really thought about it, or hasn't played against them, or didn't listen to the Orion episode, the combination of everything is that you've got a Vespid who is 3 attacks on 4s, 3/4, and then they go to +1 to hit with balance. I think is your generic ploy for as long as you've moved, you get balance. You get an extra inch on the charge from one of your equipment. You get stun and ceaseless from one of your equipment, I think. So you end up with, 3 attacks on 3s, 3/4, lethal 5, stun and ceaseless and balance, which is basically just relentless by any other name. And to cap it all off, if you get a crit, you can also do vicious sting, which lets you do an extra D3 damage to really knock people off. So but it only works when you are fighting, I believe.
Correct. When you're
at least for the extra the bonus rules for lethal 5 and ceaseless. Or stun.
No.
One of those rules.
Ceaseless comes with your faction equipment, so that's there. It's the what you essentially turn around and do with this thing is they have lethal 5 and shock, so that's buffed. But it means that
the Vespid can basically tango with any of the human-sized teams, and even some of the 8 wound teams. They can 2-shot them with lethal 5. It's not generally as reliable, but for anything at a 7 wound count, or even just stuff that's injured, now Vespid really can just like charge in with all of the keywords and finish them off. And like you were saying, you've got the Hardened Exoskeleton, which gives you -1 damage, I think, in combat. So those 9 wounds in combat can go a lot further than people are expecting.
Yeah. And plus, the sting works. It just improved the hit stat of your claws by 1, and you get lethal 5 and shock. So it doesn't require you to fight in retaliating. And then the equipment works the same way. I think the only one I'm poking around in it right now that requires you to fight is the Vicious Venom.
Correct.
Aggression Stimulant requires you to be fighting. So that one only works when you're charging. Yeah, one of them. There's 2 separate equipments that matter for combat, because one of them gives you an extra inch for charging and dashing, and then Aggression Stimulant is ceaseless if you're fighting. So when you're going on the offense, you get ceaseless, but you always get balance as long as you move. So it's easier to get aggressed on, but Vespid just have fly, so you can do a lot more asymmetric setups.
Okay, yeah, but even when defending, you'll get lethal 5, shock, and hit from sting.
Yeah, correct.
Big.
So in the dark, do you find that you're turning on the melee mode a lot more? Because I get the sense that on Volcus, it's much easier to set up the asymmetric melee modes, because you just camp out on top of a building and then just blip down to your opponent and shred them in half. But in the dark, is it as reliable?
Look, so on Volcus, I play the shooting game and only do melee when and if I have to, only because they're just so much stronger in shooting than they are in melee. And in melee, you've got to really focus on how you're using your CP. Usually at the start of turning point 3, if I think I've got a few valid opportunities to just feed and create opportunities on Gallowdark, I will buff them for melee and charge them in. And that works really well, and I've seen, especially with some dice rolls relating to shock, if my opponent whiffs, and even some elites whiff at the best of times, I've seen my guys just absolutely destroy elites with that opportunity. So again, it's more of like a turning point 3. How much CP have I used? Is it going to be worth it? Am I going to be able to do some really good gambit moves? And one thing Alexa said to me, which I'll never forget, is don't ever rely on your dice rolls. So it really depends on how you're playing. But if at the start of turning point 3, I've got an opportunity to do something, or in my last game at the start of turning point 2, because there was just big opportunities to get up the board, I'll buff and go for it for sure.
And Jason, you've been having similar success. I feel like part of the reason why Vespid maybe are appealing is because you get a little bit of that Banshee place, that all Banshee Blades of Cain aggression play style that you were talking about, way back when we started this edition.
Yeah, the flight just kind of lets you non-reciprocally stage threats. The ghost key also lets you kind of just like bait people, where you stage aggressively, and if they come after you, you can like weather the storm, and if they don't, then you've got a forward stage threat. The fact that all of their mechanics actually do kind of synergize with themselves, where it's just like you move and then move closer because you want to be within 8 most of the time if you can, and just like move closer and shoot is just so simple. And then as long as your like network and sequencing is right, that you have more of you get more shots per turn than your opponent. So it's like everyone is that covered, and like especially if you attack and if you gang up on one target and then your opponent has to like move to clear a corner to get visibility on the things that are attacking. Now you've got your aerial agility. I mean, like there is kind of some fun, clever play going on with them that is very interesting, but it is got 5 basic warriors, which I love. I love having like simpler rules, lots of the same characters, and just the simplicity of it, the aggression of it, and it's been a really fun team. I've been having a blast with Vespid.
Keeping your leader alive is also a really important thing as well, because he's your free CP for a strategic ploy. He's like,
don't get baited by that hitting on 3s leader, right? Because you're like, oh man, I don't want to have to hit on 4s. I'll fire with my leader. Almost always a mistake.
Keeping him up the back and just keeping him as an opportunity, to do some reciprocal shooting potentially is the only thing I'd recommend you do with him. And your drone's really important as well. Drone positioning for things like saturate and so forth. And your drone also, yeets you a communion point every turning point. And your leader's got one baked in as well, but not to use with anybody else, just for himself. Those 2 guys are what I would call your key support units for the team.
Yeah, doing a good job of wasting your opponent's time too when you're playing this aggressive strategy. Like when you wait for your opponent at turn 2, you send your oversight drone off into the middle and he turns on the aerial guidance, and now your opponent's like, this stupid drone. I'm not going to go charge and fight this thing because then I'll get destroyed.
And even if not, they're just an easy pass. Both of them are just an easy pass, especially if you've got like Nemesis Claw using President's Token. They're like, oh, I'm passing. And I'm like, oh, okay. Just flip my drone, flip my leader. Yeah, it's a good way to waste time.
Yeah, I like to have the leader go after, like, if there's someone that, like, already attacked and and you already kind of, like, ding them a little bit, if the leader can then just, like, hunt down and kill them. You can even do it in a risky spot where if you don't know you're going to kill the target, because they can't afford to hit you back because you have, like, forward pressure. And if they do shoot at your leader, all of a sudden one of your warriors that's pushing really far forward gets, like, a huge opportunity from it. Or like if it's just like you're pretty safe because you'll kill one final thing in melee, like you can use the leader aggressively, but you got to be really tasteful about it.
Yeah, he's the why not? He's the why not shot.
Yeah.
I found the one time that I've played the current Vespid, I just took shots with my leader and then flew him into safety like a coward.
Yeah, you want to keep that free strategic ploy for sure.
At least probably until like the opening of turn 3. Once you've gotten your 3 ploys out of him, you probably can go off and go kill someone. Because by the 4th turn, I feel like with Vespid, if you're going to win or lose by the end of turn 3.
Yeah, definitely. And look, the only piece of universal equipment I'd take with these guys, especially on Gallodark, is probably just light barricades, and that's just to slow down your opponent, where relevant. It works really well, especially if you've got an open door down a corridor either your light barricade or their light barricade there, and then flying in your sky blast and going Aceli and just shooting on that light barricade. It does wonders. It's beautiful music.
Like conditioning your opponent to think like, okay, at least there's a light barricade on the objective. I can go use that, and then just blowing them up.
Correct. It's pretty dirty, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, one concept that I really like is definitely stun grenades, specifically for the Shade Strain. Because if he's just creeping around, you can't shoot him within 6 inches, and he's throwing stun grenades at people, causing a lot of disruption, is hard to kill, and can just like kick the hornet's nest to get all the enemies rallied up trying to go after him, and that gives you just a bunch of targets for everyone else on the team.
Think about it against Galapox, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, solid.
All for the low cost of a communion point.
Does he need a communion point to throw a grenade?
Actually, it might not. They might have changed it so that it doesn't anymore. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah. That's actually pretty good. Oh, Jason and his Phobos stun grenades. When will they stop making it onto other teams?
It's pretty juicy. It's way different than how I did it with Phobos. Phobos was always just like stage aggressively, and if someone moves close, then you counteract, throw a stun grenade. And this is more you just like aggress and like creep up on people, and like especially like someone has some expended operatives nearby, and you just like wheel up and start throwing stun grenades at people. It's a little more proactive than the Phobos method.
I wonder if stun grenades would work on Raveners now that you mention it. Just because you're getting counteracted, and people definitely want to come touch you on the first couple turns.
Yeah,
because any damage is good damage against Raveners.
And Raveners throwing stun grenades could be pretty good too for the same concept. Counteract, throw stun grenade. If it's like stun grenade and burrow.
I mean, I don't know what they would be in Tyrannid land. Maybe like a flashbang bug.
Yeah, a psychic attack maybe. I don't know. Are there psychic Raveners?
That's true. You can make a brain bug Ravener, I guess. I guess for me it'd be a photon grenade with my crisis suits.
There you go. Easy.
Yeah, easy.
Oh man. All right. Bands, now that we've talked a little bit about everything, do you want to shout out any stores or local heroes, hometown heroes while you're here before we head out for the night?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Thank you so much. So massive shout out to the gang from the Area 51 and Nurglings with Attitude. Geez, so many names to remember, but Tony, Grant, Shrub, Spook, Rays, Yanni, Seven, Ibby, Fayez, and then the two guys who I have to again mention are probably Screech and Samwise, because they've been part of the community since day one, and they always provide a lot of guidance, a lot of support. They'll always turn up and teach people. They also provide a lot of feedback, so they're going really well. And then the gang over in the ACT, so like Fifu, Chang, Carl, Spy. I mentioned Keely over in Western Australia. Friends Bo and Dandyman over in South Australia. And again, massive shout out to Panania Diggers, HR Games, and the Combat Company, who've been strong supporters, Artis Opus and the Gamer Realm. Yeah, they've just all been fantastic.
And for anyone who's looking to get a game when they visit Australia, you guys know where to go. We'll have the links to the Good Times Roll Discord in the show notes as always.
Yeah, thank you so much. And a massive shout out to both of you, right? You do an absolutely amazing job for the community. I personally listen to every single one of your podcasts because they're short, sweet, and straight to the point. You always have great people on. So massive shout out to both of yourselves for doing the amazing job you've been doing from the very get-go in the community. I know a lot of people in our Discord are massive avid fans of both of yours and love hearing all the good things you guys produce on a regular basis. So thanks so much, guys.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for coming on. Speaking of having good people on all the time, we're very glad to have you on.
Thanks so much.
And as always, thank you, listeners,